There are bands that had it all: a powerful sound, a flawless image, explosive live shows, even the backing of major industry names. But for some reason, they vanished from the radar. You don't see them in documentaries, they're missing from playlists, and most people don't even know they existed. They were part of a generation that gave it everything, but ended up in the shadows. That's why in this video, you're going to discover 10 incredible bands the world forgot. Some came within inches of glory. Others never even had a real shot. But they all had one thing in common: undeniable talent, just not the right time or the right place. Listen closely, because more than once you'll find yourself wondering how on earth this didn't become a global hit. And by the time we reach the end, I bet you'll have a hard time choosing just one to go back and play first. Formed in 1984 by legendary drummer Carmine Appice, King Kobra burst onto the scene with a powerful sound and flashy glam metal look right when the genre was peaking. Appice, known for his work with Vanilla Fudge and Ozzy Osbourne, pulled together a group of young, hungry musicians and built a band that looked ready to pack stadium. Their debut, Ready to Strike, dropped in 1985. Showcasing a mix of punchy riffs, explosive choruses, and the high-energy aesthetic that defined the era. One of the band's biggest assets was original vocalist Mark Free, whose melodic power and range helped them stand out in a crowded scene. Free would later transition and become Marcy Free, fronting bands like Signal and Unruly Child. Despite lineup changes, King Kobra kept recording and touring, but they never broke through the way the debut had promised. Frequent member changes made it hard for the band to build a consistent identity. Though their first two albums were well received by critics, they struggled to find a strong foothold in a market oversaturated with similar acts.
It's dark inside, no place to...
The Bez came out of Chicago in the early 80s, made up of musicians already active in the local scene. Their only album, Get Up, was released in 1982 and made an immediate splash with a tight blend of power pop and hard rock. Think Cheap Trick, with more edge and attitude. Fast, catchy, and packed with swagger, their songs hit hard. Frontman and guitarist Tom Holland, who'd done a stint with Steppenwolf, was key to the band's identity. His gritty vocals and commanding stage presence gave the Buzz an electric live energy. They played every show like it was Madison Square Garden even when it was just a local club. Despite strong reviews and some regional radio play, a lack of label support and an oversaturated scene cut their momentum short. A second album never materialized, and the Biz faded into obscurity too soon and far too underrated. Seattle's Fifth Angel formed in 1983, long before the city was known for grunge. Their style leaned heavily toward melodic heavy metal, drawing inspiration from bands like Iron Maiden and Queensrÿche. Their self-titled debut dropped in 1986, despite the band never having played a single live show before recording it almost unheard of. But the album was polished, powerful, and packed with technical skill. Frontman Ted Pilot delivered a theatrical and commanding vocal performance, while guitarists Ed Archer and James Bird impressed with synchronized dual solos and intricate arrangements. The whole album had an epic feel, with complex structures and high-level musicianship. Epic Records later reissued the debut with better distribution, but not enough to break them into the mainstream. While they never made a dent in the US charts, Fifth Angel earned respect in Europe and among metal collectors. Their first two albums are considered cult classics, especially among fans who appreciate pristine, ambitious 80s metal. They never cracked the mainstream, but their legacy lives on among genre purists. Hailing from Norway, Tennessee T broke into the hard rock scene with a mix of melody, technical prowess, and arena-ready production. Their most iconic release, Tell No Tales, landed in 1987 and featured the track 10,000 Lovers in One, a minor hit in Europe that barely registered in the US. Despite its relative obscurity stateside, the album was polished and ambitious, filled with layered arrangements and standout performances. Guitarist Ronnie Latecro became the band's creative core, with a distinctive, expressive playing style that set TNT apart from more formulaic acts. The addition of American vocalist Tony Harnell, whose range was nothing short of jaw-dropping, completed the puzzle. Together, they formed one of the most unique and underrated pairings in 80s hard rock. Despite the talent, Tennessee T never gained much traction in the US. Their lack of media exposure and the geographic gap between Norway and the LA-centric rock scene worked against them. Still, among fans of sophisticated hard rock with soaring vocals and intricate guitar work, TNT remains a cult favorite. Had you heard of TNT before, or is this your first time discovering them? Drop a comment if these kinds of underrated gems are your thing. Aircraft was a melodic rock band out of Wisconsin that emerged in the early 80s, firmly rooted in the AOR, album-oriented rock style. Their sound was built on bright keyboards, smooth harmonies, and hooks designed to grab you from the first note. In 1984, they released their self-titled debut album, a polished effort packed with radio-ready songs, even if it didn't get wide exposure. Tracks like Can't Run Away and It's Not So Easy stood out for their clean, straightforward structure and upbeat energy hallmarks of the era. The band even had the chance to open for major acts like REO Speedwagon, Survivor, and Night Ranger, proving they had the chops to hold their own on stage. They had the look, the sound, and the skill to go much further. But the main thing holding Aircraft back was the lack of major label support. Without the right push, they remained mostly a regional act popular locally, but never breaking out nationally. Today, their debut is considered a hidden gem by classic AOR fans, a reminder of what could have been.
I count the falling tears, they fall before I can make you feel what you felt.
Formed in Philadelphia in 1983, Cinderella was initially lumped in with the glam rock crowd thanks to their flashy look and big emotional ballads. But what set them apart was how much they evolved. In 1990, they released Heartbreak Station, a bold departure from the glam scene, embracing a raw sound steeped in blues and classic rock. It was a risky move, but it paid off artistically. Songs like Shelter Me and Heartbreak Station revealed a more mature band, lyrically introspective, musically organic. Frontman Tom Keifer took the creative reins, delivering a raspy, soulful vocal style that became the band's signature. The album didn't match the commercial success of their earlier work, but it proved that Cinderella had more depth than critics gave them credit for. Though their popularity declined with the new decade, Cinderella left behind a strong, consistent catalog. Keifer has continued to perform solo, mixing the band's classics with new material, keeping the spirit alive on his own terms. Electric Angels formed in Los Angeles in the late 80s, rising from the ashes of a band called Candy. Right away, they stood out in the glam scene. They were grittier, more ironic, and blended punk attitude with strong pop melodies. They signed with Atlantic Records in 1990 and released their self-titled debut, with Gene Simmons backing them from the start. Songs like True Love and Other Fairy Tales and The Drinking Song mixed energy, wit, and sharp social commentary with a fresh sound. Their look was more urban than theatrical, and that raw, rebellious vibe helped them stand apart in an overcrowded scene. Despite strong material and big-name support, their second album was shelved due to label politics, abruptly halting their momentum. Years later, that Lost album finally saw the light of day, helping solidify Electric Angels' cult status among fans who never stopped rooting for them.
She's gone out of my life.
Steelheart hit the scene in the early 90s, but their sound carried the full DNA of 80s glam metal. Their 1990 self-titled debut was a showcase of high-level vocals, dramatic ballads, and tight guitar work. The lead single, I'll Never Let You Go, Angel Eyes, became a chart hit and suggested that the band was here to stay. Frontman Miljenko Matijevic had a jaw-dropping vocal range that turned head 7 among seasoned musicians. Other tracks like She's Gone and Can't Stop Me Lovin' You proved they weren't a one-hit wonder. They were carving out a clear sonic identity built on power and precision. But in 1992, disaster struck. During a live show, a lighting rig collapsed onto Matijevic, causing serious facial injuries. The accident brought Steelheart's rise to a halt just as they were gaining momentum. Although Matijevic eventually recovered, the band never returned to the spotlight at the same level. Ever heard that story? Drop a comment if you thought Steelheart was just a one-song band.
Lonely sidewalks, I can see it in your eyes. Let's give it one more.
Saigon Kick came out of Miami in the late 80s with a sound that was nearly impossible to pin down. Yes, there were traces of glam metal, but also psychedelic pop, acoustic textures, and even hints of alternative rock. Their debut dropped in 1991, but the band had been evolving for years before that. They weren't interested in fitting into a box, they were more about experimenting than following trend. Guitarist Jason Bieler served as the band's sonic architect, mixing aggressive riffs with unexpected melodic turns. Meanwhile, frontman Matt Kramer brought a theatrical edge and bold stage presence to their sound. Their second album, The Lizard, featured their most visible moment, the ballad Love Is On The Way, which got major airplay on radio and television. Still, that track didn't fully reflect the rest of the record, which was much more adventurous. Their genre-bending nature meant they never quite fit into traditional playlists. Too soft for metal, too intricate for pop, and too unique to ignore. Saigon Kick became one of those cult bands that quietly shaped a generation, without hype or overexposure. DAD, short for Disneyland After Dark, is a Danish band formed in 1982 that quickly gained traction across Europe with their irreverent attitude and punchy, no-nonsense rock sound. Their style blended hard rock with punk energy and a sharp sense of humor. Legal pressure from Disney forced them to shorten their name to DAD as their fame spread beyond Denmark. Their breakout album, No Fuel Left for the Pilgrims, dropped in 1989 and was a full-throttle mission statement. Songs like Sleeping My Day Away fused dirty guitar riffs with catchy choruses and a carefree swagger that resonated deeply across Europe. Frontman Jesper Binzer brought rawness and authenticity to every linea, perfect fit for the band's gritty, straight-ahead style. In their home country and throughout much of Europe, DAD packed arenas, charted hits, and remained one of the genre's most reliable acts. But in the US, they struggled to break through. A tricky band name, thick accents, and a lack of major label support all worked against them, even though their music was more than ready to compete with the biggest names in hard rock. Sometimes, it's not just about writing great songs. If the timing's off, the label's not behind you, or you don't fit the market's mold, you might get left behind, no matter how good you are. And that's exactly what happened to many of these bands. Which of these bands surprised you the most? Did you already know any of them? Or were they all new discoveries? Check out the comments, drop your own, and let's keep building this map of lost rock gems together. If you enjoyed this time-traveling deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. See you in the next video where the music is always timeless.